Yo, what's going on? Today we're going to be taking a look at the Shadowlands Season 4 Brewmaster Monk Mythic Plus guide. So everything you need to know or want to know about Brewmaster Monk and Mythic Plus, I'll be going over here today. If there's only certain parts that you're looking for, I will have links down in the description that you can quickly go throughout. Let's go ahead and get started with my utility, which is the main reason you might be choosing a Brewmaster Monk over something like, I don't know, Blood DK. So, utility is what brings me and many brewmasters to the monk for tanking. So, what do we bring to the table? So, first off, we got mobility, right? So, I am a self-described zoomer, right? So, I live and die by Chi Torpedo. I rarely die, okay? I've only gone off like 2 cliffs. But Chi Torpedo, Roll, Tiger's Lust, these are all things that can quickly maneuver you around the dungeon. They have a 20-second recharge in the slot where you take Tiger's Lust. You get an extra button. You both have Roll and Tiger's Lust you can put on anybody, there's some nice stuff that you can do with that, so that's nice there. On top of that, for mobility, we also have Transcendence. So we have a teleport just like Warlocks. We can set it down, and on a 45-second cooldown, we can go back and forth between our teleport locations. So really good for getting out of a dangerous pack if we can set it up ahead of time, or on places like streets where you got to go down and do the band stuff. You can just set Transcendence up at the top if you for some reason don't have a Warlock, and you can just, instead of walking around the stairs, you can just Transcend up. Or like me, I've got a Warlock in my group. I'll take the gateway and I have my Transcendence out the door. I can just gateway, Transcendence, and boom, just mount up and I'm done. Everyone else is like, I'm walking for a long time. Gotta go fast. I'm telling you, gotta go fast. Alright, up next is crowd control. This is like the big reason, okay? This is the reason I love Monk. I tried Blood DK. It's not for me. The utility is where it's at. So, crowd control. Paralyze. This allows you to CC any non-elite mob. Seriously, any mob. It works on everything. Everything that's non-elite. You can CC it for 60 seconds. 30-second cooldown, meaning you can CC it and then CC something else, or just re-CC it before it pops up. You don't have to wait for it like Banish, where it's 30 seconds, and then like you have to wait for it to unbanish and then rebanish it, stuff like that. So that can be used both to just take a mob out of the thing. You can paralyze and then knock a mob away. I do that a lot in streets after doing the mini-boss. I did that a lot in Theater of Pain. Lots of things you can do where you double these up. But paralyze can also, because it can be used on any mob, you can use it to interrupt a regular interruptible ability on a mob, or a non-interruptible ability. So things like, flame cannons and just stuff like that that's going to wreck you, you can just CC it with Paralyze, and it counts like another interrupt. Okay. On top of that, you also have Ring of Peace. So Ring of Peace is that mass movement. You've seen Ring of Peace, right? So you can use this to move mobs. Great for Sanguine Week. It was Sanguine Week this week. It was amazing. Anything goes in Sanguine, boom, Ring of Peace, it's out. You can use it as interrupt on multiple mobs, right? You can get freedom from attacks. Necrotic Week's coming up. All you other tanks, DKs. I know you pretty much just got like blood shields and stuff, but like when that's all gone, you just run away and really slow. So not only can we get away with Chi Torpedo, but Necrotic, that only lasts 5 seconds. Ring of Peace is 6 seconds. So as long as the mobs you're dealing with aren't elites that aren't CCable, I can just throw a Ring of Peace on myself and wait for Necrotic to go away, and then I'm at 0 stacks. Super nice for Necrotic Week. Super nice. 60-second cooldown, so you can use it pretty often. On top of that, we also have Leg Sweep. This is a mass AoE stun. No target cap. You can, if you wanted to CC, if you got a 60 mobs on you, say you jump down into Moreau's room in Lower Kara, and you're like, why did I do this? I have every mob in the book on me. You can Leg Sweep, and for 3 seconds, they won't be attacking you. Maybe you can do something in that 3 seconds, but it works. It's unlimited. Obviously, DR is included, so if someone else stuns, then whatever was stunned is going to only be stunned for a second and a half instead of 3 seconds, but really nice. 60-second cooldown. Again, you can use this to interrupt regular mobs, the non-interruptible mobs, stuff like that, on a 60-second cooldown. The last one that a lot of people overlook and is like one of my favorite abilities is Clash. So Clash is kind of like a better version of a Warrior's Charge. Don't hate me, Warriors. But basically, any mob that's out there that's, again, not an elite that can't be, CC'd. If it's out there, it's 8 to 30 yards away from you, so kind of like an old hunter. You can basically go from where you're at and where they're at and meet in the middle. Okay? So let's say they're 30 yards away from you. You can clash them and you will both meet at 15. It'll pull you to it. It'll pull them to you, and you'll meet in the middle at 15 yards. Or if that target is stunned or CC'd and you use it, it works like a normal charge and takes you there. But what's nice about using this is you can use it to, once again, get out of Sanguine for a single mob. Okay, great for those Pennies for Heaven casters when there's Sanguine all around them. And then also you can use it to interrupt another mob. I use this all the time in Necrotic Wake. I would, interrupt one, I would paralyze another, and then I'd clash the third cast, and it's just nice. Doesn't work if it's in within 8 yards of you, but you can quickly roll Chi Torpedo, right, and then clash back in. Super nice, super effective. I use this all the time. It's really good if you raid on Soul Render. If you, for some reason, something's weird with your DK, you can clash one into position really nicely, or get into a range where it can be gripped. So, lots of crowd control there. It's like the king of crowd control, I like to say. It's the reason I play Monk. I love the utility. I just feel like I'm doing so much on this class. Alright, and then healing. Expel Harm. You get like 6-second cooldown reduced by haste, which the more stagger you have, the more haste you have. Feeds into itself. Basically, you can heal yourself back after large hits. Works just like Death Strike, except for instead of casting, you're taking like 40 resource to use, it only takes 15 energy. So it's nice. It's up pretty much every 5 seconds that you can use when you have high stagger, and it's just nice to heal yourself. Works really nice. Did I say nice yet? I think it's nice. Okay, Vivify. Now, any Guardian Druids out there ever gone out of form to try to healing touch somebody and find that you're dead? So, unlike a Guardian Druid, where you lose all your armor because you left bear form to heal somebody, as a monk, I can Vivify someone, and I'm still staggering every hit that I hit. So that means if a hunter in my group, I'm just saying hunters take more damage, right? Or if the healer's falling behind on healing, you can just stop what you're doing, use 25 energy to Vivify someone. It does take a second, like a second 0.25 to get the cast off, but we run so much crit on our build that Vivify generally crits when you cast it, so you're hitting people for 20 to 25k hits of Vivify, meaning they went just from I'm almost dead to they're at half health, or if they're at half health, now they're at full health. Super nice. 25 energy, you can stagger damage while doing it, so you're safe to do it. Obviously, I wouldn't spam this, but if your healer dies and is just gone and they're running back to you for some reason, you can Vivify yourself every once in a while just to keep yourself alive. Super nice. King of healing ourselves or helping our party, being that just utility master. One last thing that I forgot to include was that on an 8-second cooldown, we are able to both get rid of poisons and diseases. It does cost 25 energy, but that is definitely a group utility that I use all the time for myself and for the group, so don't forget about that. So, these are the big reasons I play Monk, and a lot of other Brewmaster monks out there play it. It's all this, the mobility, the crowd control, the healing. So, I just want to touch on that first. Many of you probably skipped this to go straight into the talents because you don't care about it, but I love the utility, so I'm going to talk about it. Alright, let's talk about talents. Monk. Anyone out there like a class where you can just pick a talent and then not ever have to change it? These talents right here in green, you can pick and forget. Literally, I haven't changed my talents once in Mythic Plus. I've used this build every single time I've gone to Mythic Plus from Season 2 of Shadowlands to now. I've literally only changed this once, and it was for Raid on Anduin. I used Chi Burst. So let's talk about what these do. So here's your build that works for everything. There are some other things you can do. I'll talk about them in a second. But in the first row 15, you're going to take Chi Wave. This is a 30-second ability. You're going to use it. It's instant cast. It will attack your target, then bounce and heal a friendly, then bounce and attack a target, then bounce and heal a friendly. It does it 7 times, or 7 bounces. You can use it on a friendly first, and then it'll heal and then attack, heal, attack, meaning you get 4 heals out of it and 3 attacks, or 3 attacks and 4 heals if you use it. You got it there. So you can use that. Low priority. You don't really need it for a lot, but it's nice if the whole group's about to take damage. You can just throw off a Chi Wave and know that you're doing damage and helping out the healer just a little bit. And it is a smart heal, so it won't just heal someone who, it does prioritize people who took damage. So it's pretty nice. Row number 2. Generally the pick, most Brewmasters are 50-50 on this. On Chi Torpedo or Tiger's Lust. I know Windwalkers prefer Tiger's Lust, so do healers. But when it comes to Brewmasters, we prefer pretty much 50-50. So half of us are Chi Torpedo, where roll turns into Chi Torpedo. Instead of going like 5 yards, you go like 15. And after Chi Torpedoing, you get a 10-second buff that increases your speed by, I believe it's 20%. And that stacks, so you can do it twice in a row and have 40% additional speed for 15 seconds. So pretty nice. I prefer Chi Torpedo. I'm a zoomer, so I like to use this. I find that it helps me get out of mechanics that roll would kind of just slightly leave me in. But if you want to play more utility, Tiger's Lust is nice. It has a lot of utility options. Specifically, if you're in streets on the Menagerie boss, when Chains is going out, you can literally just throw Tiger's Lust on them and they won't get chains, so it works like Freedom. It also is like an extra ability that you can just throw on someone to give them a burst of speed. So a lot of people use it that way. I'm selfish, so I use Chi Torpedo, but I am bringing all that other utility, so who cares? With Tiger's Lust, you still keep roll, so you don't lose that. You just gain Tiger's Lust. The next ability is Light Brewing. This just makes it so that you take less damage. The other two things are just bad. Don't take it. All right, next row, Ring of Peace. So this is the Ring of Peace row. You're not going to take Tiger Tail Swipe because it's pointless. Ox Statue generally is not going to be nearly as good as Ring of Peace. You might use Ox Statue like in Raid. This isn't a Raid guide though, for like the first boss in Sepulchre. But generally, you're just gonna run Ring of Peace. It's the nice one. If you are new to Monk and you really are having trouble with threat, you might take Ox Statue. Ox Statue will allow you to taunt it, and it'll taunt everything around you. But again, generally, Ring of Peace is way better, and we don't tend to have the threat issues that something like a Guardian Druid would have when they're not in Berserk. Up next, row 40, we got Bob and Weave. Bob and Weave is the talent you can take. It just adds 3 seconds to your stagger, so whenever you get hit and stagger gets added, we'll talk about what stagger here in a second. But when stagger happens, instead of dealing damage to you over 7 seconds, it's split out even more and dealt to you over 10 instead, which means you're taking less damage with each tick, and that's just good. We'll talk about a change in this row coming up, but again, you can pick this and forget it. Up next, row 45. You can basically pick Rushing Jade Wind and be good. It's going to put a tornado around you. It's a buff basically on you. Puts a tornado around you for 9 seconds that just does damage to anything within 6 yards of you in any direction with a 6-second cooldown. So last 9 seconds, click it every 6. It stays up forever. Low priority on refreshing just because it comes up before you need it and it's free to use, doesn't cost energy. The last one is High Tolerance. This is the only talent to take in the last tier. High Tolerance makes it so that you gain haste based on the level of stagger you have. So if you have low stagger, you have 5% haste. If you have medium stagger, you now have 8% additional haste. If you have high stagger, which generally you're going to have high stagger basically the whole time of a dungeon, besides in between pulls, that means that you have 15% increased haste. This makes it so that we pretty low value haste, but the other two things on here are garbage, so we don't really talk about it. So again, you can pick these, again, on row 25 with Chi Torpedo and Tiger's Lust. Pick whichever one you prefer. You can play around with them both, see which one you like more. Maybe switch it every so often. I personally pick Chi Torpedo, and then I just forget about everything else. I don't have to touch the tree ever again. Now, there are some different things that you can do. So let's talk about what those are. So, on the first row, instead of taking Chi Wave, you could take Eye of the Tiger. Eye of the Tiger makes it so that when you Tiger Palm, it puts a dot on one target. Not every target that you Tiger Palm, just one. They can only be up on one at a time. But basically it makes it so that whenever you deal damage to that, it just ticks, and it heals you and also does a little bit more damage to one target, whichever one you Tiger Palm last. Generally, when monks are learning, they might use this instead of Chi Wave, because they're like, oh, Chi Wave's an extra button, but here's the sad story is Tiger Palm is not even worth pressing. I don't have it on my bar. I haven't had it on my bar since Season 2. I did a level 9, and I was like, why am I using this? It literally is pointless. So Eye of the Tiger, kind of pointless. You don't really need it. If you have Tiger Palm on your bar, I'm here to tell you, if you're not a Windwalker or a Mistweaver, you can take Tiger Palm off your bar. You don't need it as a Brewmaster. It's generally pointless. There is one exception. If you were playing Necrolord, then when your Necrolord ability is up, Eye of the Tiger it does come a little bit better because you are going to Tiger Palm a little bit more as a Necrolord. So how it works is Tiger Palm will give you 1 second off all of your brews. Generally, that's not good. It doesn't matter. You get 4 seconds from Cake Smash, so it's not a big deal. When you're Necrolord, it doubles all of that when your Necrolord ability is up. So instead of getting 1 second off your brews, you get 2, which ends up being a little bit more worth it. How much more worth it? Whenever I went Brewmaster Necrolord last year, I still never used Eye of the Tiger or Tiger Palm. It's still not on my bars. I've never added it. So, not super needed, but if you want to use that instead of Chi Wave, you have that option. It just does less damage, does less healing. It's less good, but it's not bad. Chi Burst, actually, you're not going to use it. I know Windwalkers use it. It ends up not being worth it because you do have to cast and you can't do other things while that's casting. So generally it's not worth it. I've only actually used Chi Burst on Anduin to help with the barriers for Mythic. But again, this is Mythic Plus, so you don't need it. You can get rid of it. Alright, down on the 40 row, there is Dampen Harm. So some people, instead of having Stagger go up from 7 seconds to 10 seconds and doing less damage to you over time, they'll choose to have an extra 2-minute cooldown in Dampen Harm. That reduces anywhere from 20 to 50% of your damage intake. This is nice. It is nice. Some people run this. However, the higher key you go, you're going to find that you're getting just hit all the time for multiple hits, and Bob and Weave is just going to be better. Having your stagger spread out for an additional 3 seconds ends up being more damage reduction than Dampen Harm would be over the length of the dungeon, even if you pressed it on cooldown on a big attack every single time. So Bob and Weave is just better, plus it's one less button. It's passive, it happens on its own. But if you find that you need an extra defensive, you can take off Bob and Weave, and you can take Dampen Harm, and then you've got an extra defensive button ready to use whenever you want it. Alright, and then you might say to yourself, well, okay, Kyle, I've heard special delivery. I see a lot of monks and high keys are taking this, and that's true. There are some monks and high keys that take this. However, this is really just advanced play. Special delivery generally ends up not being worth it until the key level gets so high that you can't actually stay in an attack. Special delivery, what it does, instead of Jade Wind, which Jade Wind's an active ability, special delivery is passive. It makes it so that whenever you purify, which you do quite often, it sends out a keg on a random target that's near you, and it will slow them for 50% and then anything around them for 50%. So it's really good for kiting. However, here's the problem. Okay, it only happens when you Purifying Brew, which is like every 8 seconds, but less when you're going to sell brew. But again, this is more for when like I can't stand. There's so many targets hitting me. The whole reason you take this is so that you just kite the whole time. You don't actually attack, and generally that's not going to be a thing until like 28, 29, 30 keys. I've used this talent once or twice in a 26, and I was like, this is pointless. I ended up not needing to kite nearly as much as I thought I was going to, or at all, because I'm a Brewmaster. So generally, you're not really going to use this. If you get into super high keys, you might try it out, see how it works. If you get to super high fortified, where things are just literally destroying you, you might play with this on like a Necrotic week, but generally you can just avoid this and take Rushing Jade Wind. It's going to do more damage. Plus, Special Delivery has the problem of when it sends out the keg, it's not the same keg as Keg Smash, but when it sends it out, it goes out 3 seconds after you press it. So it flies in the air instantly, but it doesn't land for 3 seconds. In that 3 seconds, you could have moved, and then it hits nothing. It hits the ground where a mob was, not where it's moving to, so it just misses and does nothing. Or it doesn't know what mob is CC'd. So if you have a mob close to you within, I think it's 15 yards, that's CC'd, and you don't want to hit it, and you hit Purifying Brew, and you have Special Delivery, it can choose that mob, and then it breaks your CC, and then your whole thing's like messed up. So again, really that's just for advanced play. I don't recommend taking it, even when I've tanked up to 25s and 26s last season. I was in the top 100 in the US. I was the top Brewmaster Monk on the Zul'jin server for the US last season. I used Special Delivery twice, and I found that it was pointless for me to use. I was doing 25s and 26s. Aren't anything super high, but again, just here to make the guide, so that's what that. So again, let's go back. These are the ones you can just pick and forget. Everything in green there, and if you want to play around the others, you can. And if you have like comments about knowing more about Special Delivery or anything like that, put in the comments. I'd love to see it. We can talk about it for sure. All right, so talents, you've got that here. Now we're going to talk about Soulbinds. And when it comes to Soulbinds, there is the one true Soulbind, and that is being Kyrian and picking Mykonos. Okay. Now, you might say, okay, well, I've heard a lot of Necro. There's some Necro ones out there playing Brewmaster. That was pretty true last season. You'd see that a lot in Top. You'd see that a lot in Plaguefall, just because you needed a Necrolord. Generally, Necrolord's not going to be picked again until you're using, like, you're falling into that special delivery where you're doing 28s, 29s, 30s. It's better defensively when you're not focusing on doing damage. So generally, you're not going to use it. You're just going to use Kyrian. So here is the offensive Kyrian build. And you're going to notice that I've got one talent marked over there in blue. Or sorry, one conduit marked in blue and the rest in green. That's because there's going to be two conduit builds I'm going to show you. And the things in green you're going to use for both. So, nice. So, here's the build. So, you're going to pick Mykonos. You're going to start out by going left. On the left part there, you're going to put in Strike with Clarity. That's your Kyrian conduit. It makes it so that you get a little bit more mastery when you use Weapons of Order. And it lasts like 5 seconds longer. So, very small DPS increase. Below that, you'll take the node that makes it so that if you get low, your Kyrian file automatically props and heals you and uses its charge. Below that, you're going to put in your only finesse conduit, which is Tumbling Technique. This makes it so that whenever you blackout kick, you have a chance to instantly be refunded a charge of Roll or Chi Torpedo. Doesn't work with Tiger's Lust because it just refunds Roll, but it will refund Chi Torpedo as well. Super nice, especially because gotta go fast. All right, the next node. Every guide that you see on the internet, every guide I've seen, tells you to go right on this next node right here. It tells you to go here. I don't know why they do this. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been over here on the left. This node right here makes it so that whenever you receive a heal, which you're a tank, so you get healed all the time, not only by healers but by yourself, your gear repairs a little bit. I have not repaired since I picked this node in 9.2. I literally have never repaired my gear. Even on Anduin, where we're just wiping for hours to the first phase not being, nerfed yet, I didn't have to repair. Ever. Ever. Doing keys, I never repair. I've never repaired. I don't even have to look at a repair bot. Okay, I have a repair bot. I have Jeeves. I'd throw it down to fillers and I don't even touch it. Okay, the other node over here that they'll tell you to take makes it so that whenever you take fall damage, you take slightly less damage for 10 seconds. There's nowhere where you're going to take significant fall damage to reduce your damage. The one place might be when you jump over the wall coming down in Lower Kara to go to Morose. That's it. You could kind of use it in DOS, but DOS isn't a key anymore, so it doesn't matter. Same thing with like after the waterfall and mist, but again, it's not a key anymore, so it doesn't matter. So this one, you're literally wasting a point by picking it over here. Put it over here, never have to repair. It's nice. You're a tank. You don't have to repair. I've saved thousands of gold. All right, right beneath that is Harm Denial. This makes it so your Expel Harm, your self-heal, heals more. Just good. It's the best one you have there. Then from there, we're going to go left. Now, every other tank tree that uses Kyrian goes straight down the middle for Genesis Hammer to get extra haste, but we're Brewmasters. We don't need extra haste. So we're going left to get the extra potency. This extra potency is Scalding Brew. This makes it so that whenever you cake smash a target that has your Ignite dot on it, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, it makes it so cake smash does more damage. And you want your cake smash to do more damage. It's like the best DPS talent or conduit you can put in here. There it is. This talent right here, I have no idea what it does. Doesn't matter. You're going here for the conduit. Alright, after that, you're going to the middle node. That's another potency. This one's Walk with the Ox. This makes it so that when you cake smash and do other things, it reduces the cooldown on Invoke Nuzao. I like to call him Nuzio, but I'll say it correctly this time. It reduces the cooldown on Invoke Nuzao, which just means you get your biggest DPS cooldown back faster, and it's not only just a DPS cooldown, but it's also a defensive cooldown, so that's nice. From here, we're going to go left, not only because this is the superior trait right here, which makes it so that you just get increased healing on yourself and do increased damage to your target, but also because it gives you your other defensive conduit, which is the Condensed Animosphere, which just makes it so that whenever you take damage every 10 seconds, you'll get healed, which is good. And then you take the last one, which again makes it so that when you activate Weapons of Order, anything around you, if it hits more than, up to 5 targets, it reduces the cooldown of Weapons of Order, which in keys is really good. Alright, so this is the tree. If you check out most people that are playing Brewmaster, they are running this tree. Okay? Now there's one other tree you can use, And again, everything in green there, you're going to keep exactly the same. I've actually put Strike with Clarity where it is because it's the potency that matters the least. And that's because if you need to go defensive, you'll take the right side of the top of the tree. So, what this does is it does two things. So, first of all, it gives you a defensive here, and this is like the next best defensive, and this is Fortifying Ingredients. This takes our really strong defensive cooldown, Fortifying Brew, and makes it better. It makes it so that whenever we press it, not only do we get increased health and increased stagger viability, we also get an Absorb Shield, equal to 15% of our max health. So, best defensive cooldown gets better. Okay, so that's good. Not needed in lower keys or anything that you're not trying to push. But if you're dealing with a fortified week, maybe it's necrotic, or maybe you're trying to push some keys up, this gets pretty strong then. Honestly, for learning the new keys the last 2 weeks, I've been running this just to be safe. Because again, this actually doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Okay, it does extra damage for sure, but it doesn't do a whole lot, and this just gives extra survivability. So if you're learning new stuff, this is the one I would go to. So if you're just starting with Brewmaster, I would take Fortifying Ingredients, first slot right here. The second thing that this does is it gets rid of a conduit that you really, or like the node that you don't want. Okay, so a lot of DPS like this node because it automatically activates their file, and yay, free healing. As a tank, that's kind of, you don't really want that. I'll be honest, I would rather plan on using my file to either A, heal me, or B, remove a dot, which Morose is a good place to remove a dots. The two mobs that, if you're going up like the slanted runways after the first boss in Grimmail Depot, you're going to want to use your file to remove those dots. They really hurt, especially the longer you're in combat with them. So, not only does it get rid of this, where it just activates on its own and then you want to use your file and it's not there, but it also gives you this node. And this node's super nice. It makes it so that whenever you press your file, it knocks away anything within 3 yards of you. So this is really nice. Sanguine week, I was running this build. So whenever stuff was in Sanguine and I didn't have Ring of Peace up to knock it or Clash up to pull it out, I was able to just walk over it, use my file, and boom, it's out of Sanguine. You can also use this as an extra interrupt. Say you're out of interrupts. The technician at the beginning of Grimmail Depot is about to get the cast off on the Iron Star and do massive damage to you. You can just roll over to it, press your file, and it's for 3 more seconds. It's not casting. It will recast it right there. But at least it's an interrupt that you can use again right there. And again, it doesn't auto proc your file. So when you need extra defensives, or maybe it's necrotic week and you don't want it to automatically use your file, or it's sanguine week and you want to use it to knock things out, or it's fortified week and you don't want to get trucked, this is the build I would take. It's really good, again, if you're trying to push keys up. You're kind of doing it for the first time before you're getting comfortable, gives you that extra defensive there. Okay, but again, everything in green here: tumbling techniques, harm denial, scalding brew, walk with the ox, condensed atmosphere. You're going to take all that every single time. The only thing that's going to change is whether you go left for damage or right for defensives. Cool. All right, so up next, I think the thing that makes the most sense to me is to talk about stats. So let's talk about stats, and then we'll talk about Legos, 4-piece, and get into our cooldowns and stuff. But again, if you want to go into different order, there's going to be stuff down below where you can click to get to the different timestamps that you want to go to. So, stats. Our stat priority here is as followed. You're going to want agility is the best stat. It just is, okay? And then after that, you want verse, crit, followed by mastery being greater than or equal to haste. Generally, I just don't look for any haste. I'll be honest with you. I just stick with the verse, followed by crit, followed by mastery. That's going to be your best bet there. Now, here's why all these things work in the way that they do. Okay, so agility is what runs your stagger. Okay, just like if you played Guardian Druid before, where it determines your armor, agility determines our stagger. So with current levels of stagger, the more agility you have, the more stagger you have. Right now, let's go back to Season 2. Season 2, the amount of agility I had, I was staggering about 40% of the damage that I took, maybe like 35. 35 is probably a better number. I was staggering about 35% of the damage I took. That meant that if I took a 100k hit, I instantly took 65k, and then I staggered 35%, so 35k over 10 seconds. The level of stagger I have now, just like with, full Mythic Plus gear, not even like good raid gear, I have 52% stagger. That means if I get hit by a 100k hit without using any defensives, instead of getting hit by the 100k hit, I got hit for 48k, and then the 52k other is actually dealt to me over 10 seconds with stagger, which then you can use things like Purifying Brew, we'll talk about cooldowns in a little bit, to make that so it doesn't do that damage to you. So agility good, makes you take less damage up front, which means your healers can heal you up, you can heal yourself up, or you can just get rid of that stagger using different monk mechanics. So agility good. Generally, this is why a lot of guys out there will say, item levels king. I'm going to put a stipulation on that. If you're looking at an upgrade that's like 5 item levels, and you are replacing a verse crit piece, keep the verse crit piece. If it's 10 item levels, and you have a crit verse piece, and you're going to a high haste mastery piece, you might want to stick with the verse crit. I'd stick with the verse crit. But I did put agility out there in front because there are a couple trinkets out there that do like an on-use ability that don't have agility, or there's that one trinket out of Iron Docks that has verse, and then when you use it, it gives verse, which could be really good, but the upfront agility is generally better. This is why that trinket out of Tazavesh that got nerfed for Brewmaster, where it gives you stamina and then does some like weird stuff, tends to not be as good as an agility trinket that does nice stuff for us because we have extra stagger through it. Alright, verse. Again, verse just works like for us, just like it does for everyone. Whatever your verse percent is, you get that percent damage reduction, and then half of that you get as extra damage when you attack. So verse, good, best stat for a tank, pretty much every class. You might see like haste being better and then verse for like blood decays and guardian druids, but verse is generally like the go-to stat for tanks. Alright, after verse, instead of haste like all the other tanks want, we want crit. And the reason we want crit after verse is because of Celestial Fortune and then also our Foresight. So Celestial Fortune makes it so that you have a chance whenever you get healed, okay, whenever you get healed, whether by yourself, by a healer, by a hot, by a shield that you're putting on yourself, anytime any of that things happen, you have a chance equal to whatever your crit percent is to be healed for an additional 65%. That means if in Season 3, when I was playing this, I had like 45% crit. So generally, every other heal that my healer put into me was doing 65% more. So if they hit me for a 10k heal, I was generally getting hit for, instead of 10k, I was getting hit for 16.5k. And that 6.5 extra was counted as healing done to myself, which is nice. This actually works with a couple of our other abilities, Celestial Brew, Fortifying Brew, if you take that defensive conduit that I talked about, where when you put a shield on yourself, that counts as a heal. So the shield, if you were going to shield yourself for 50k, it will instead, shield you for something over 75k. Alright, so it has that chance equal to crit. So that's why crit is really good. A lot of people out there, when it comes to what do we take when we go into our keys over 10, what do you pick, verse or crit? You can kind of go either way. Verse is really good if you don't have a lot of verse, take verse. If you don't have a lot of crit, take crit. The more crit you have, the more healing you do to yourself or get healing from others, and just you do more damage because you're critting more. So crit's really good for us. It's like haste for every other tank. It's good. It's very nice. Okay. All right. Mastery comes next. Mastery is nice. It actually isn't bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. So Mastery makes it so that whatever your Mastery percent is, my Mastery you can see right there is 17.7. It's kind of high. Generally, I run closer to 12, but there's not very many verse crit pieces right now that I have access to. So what it does is it makes it so that whenever you're hit by a melee, or use Blackout Kick, which is one of our abilities, you get a stacking dodge chance equal to your Mastery. So if I Blackout Kick, I get one stack of it for 17.7% increased dodge chance. And that continues to build until you successfully dodge. So like if you get hit by 3 targets, you instantly then have basically a 60% chance to dodge the next attack. And that just keeps on building until you get hit. Now, this is something that you can actually play around. So there was the gargoyles in Sanguine Depths and the weird Affix dude from Season 2. where you would get hit with a really big hit. I have yet to see if it works on Leashing Claws. I want to see if it does because it's so good. Let me tell you what you can do with this mastery to kind of cheese certain mechanics. So, if you have a mechanic that's going to hit you really hard, or applies a dot, or something like that, it would be amazing if you could dodge. Here's what you do. You blackout kick, and then as long as it doesn't do like really deadly stuff, turn around and put your back to it. And I know what you're thinking, but Kyle, you can't dodge attacks from the back, and you can get hit harder. That's true. But as long as this mob's not going to do damage, like a lot of damage to you with its white hits, that's fine. Because you want it to hit you in your back. Because you can't dodge, which means you got hit, which meant you got another stack, and then another stack, and then another stack. And guess what? If you've got 17% mastery, and you build up 6 stacks of this guard dodge that you get, and then you know the ability is about to come out because it's on a timer or it does a cast like 1.5 seconds. So Legion Claw is about to come out. I have 6 stacks of my mastery, meaning I have over 100% chance to dodge. I can then turn around, face it, and the attack will miss me. And it's guaranteed to miss because it's the first attack done to me when I face it. This allowed us to do really cool things, like I said, in Sanguine Depths. I did this a lot with that affix in Season 2. I have yet to see if it works on Leeching Claws from the Shrouded FX. I'm going to try it next key I get into because I actually kind of forgot about it until I made this thing. But this is just good because in the situations where you're not cheesing it like I just talked about, generally what this means is as you're getting hit, you dodge attacks. Okay? Sometimes they're a big attack that would hit you for a lot. Sometimes they're a small attack, but either way it's less damage, and then you get attack power equal to whatever your mastery is. So it's not bad. It's not crit. It's not verse, but it's not bad. So it's there. Okay. And then the reason haste comes last for us is because of that talent that we took at the very end of our talent tree. The very last one, High Tolerance, where the more stagger we have, the more haste we get. This is what makes us devalue haste because we tend to not need haste that much. Our cooldowns are generally like 6 to 8 seconds. And so having an additional 15% haste, even if I only have 3% haste like I did last season, that means I'm at 18% haste, so I'm getting pretty good cooldown reduction as it is. So haste, generally not that needed. It's not bad, it's just not as good as the other stats. Mastery tends to be a little bit better defensively. Haste tends to be a little bit, it's kind of equal to mastery offensively, can be slightly better than mastery offensively. But mastery, you're getting both offense and defense, so myself, I tend to value it a little bit more. But when it comes down to it, basically what you're looking for when it comes to gear, you want verse and crit on every piece that you can find. Preferably high verse and then crit, or high crit and then verse. If you can't find high verse and then crit, another good thing to have is high verse and mastery. Okay, or high crit and mastery. High mastery and crit's not as good. And high mastery and verse isn't as good, but you can still take it. But I definitely would not take anything that's high haste with mastery on it for the lower one, or like high mastery and haste. That's not very good. Which brings me into rings from Mechagon. Those are high haste. We don't want those. So if you were thinking about maybe getting them for Brewmaster, they're not so great. But that's okay because we got some better ring options through raid and through the ring in lower Karazhan. So that's stats. Basically, verse and crit are good, but if you have to, if it's like 10 item levels, then you're going to get more agility, which means more stagger, and in which case you can take whatever you need until you can change it for verse and crit. Cool. There's your stats. All right. Now, before I talk about our rotation and our opener, I want to talk about Legos and 2 and 4 set because that's going to change how we play. And at this point in time, you're generally pretty much just going to be able to get your Legos and your 4-piece and just be going right into it. And even if you don't have 4-piece, it's not going to change it. As soon as you have Storm Stout's keg, you are good. Your first Lego, your rotation's set, and you're good. So let's just go ahead and talk about that now. So, Legos. First piece, your regular monk piece is Storm Stout's last keg. Okay? This is available to you on head, hands, and belt. However, head and hands are both very high budgeted stat things and they're tier pieces. So you're going to craft this on your belt. But as a plus side, you're going to get a free socket out of it. So craft it on your belt. It's the only choice. So Storm Stout's last keg, what does it do? It makes it so Keg Smash does 30% additional damage. That's nice. But the really nice thing about it is that it gives your Cake Smash a second charge. So instead of just having one charge, you now have two. This makes it so strong, especially for pools in dungeons. All these other tanks that might have threat issues that aren't Blood DKs or a bear using Berserk, we don't have threat issues generally. Because all we have to do is Cake Smash, Breath of Fire, and then Cake Smash again, and we should have full threat on everything forever. Okay? So, this is really good for threat. It's also really good for damage, and it interacts with our 4-piece really nicely, and our conduits that we chose. So, that's the only choice. You don't pick anything else. It's the best choice. Don't pick anything else. Did I say don't pick anything else? Okay. Let's talk about Unity. So, as I mentioned earlier, you're only going to pick Kyrian, so I've put this on here as what the Kyrian one does. If you choose Brewmaster, it does do something different. If you want more in-depth on Brewmaster playing Necrolord, then I can go over that, in a different video. So, Unity. Unlike last season, where our Legendaries were our highest item level piece, now our Legendaries are capped at 291, which means it's actually going to be, in most cases, our lowest item level pieces if you are doing any, consistent Mythic Plus or even Raid. So, here's what you're going to do. You're going to craft it on either Bracers or Neck. Okay, the reason we pick Bracers is because it's the lowest stat budgeted thing, and also it gives you a socket. So that's nice. If you have really good Bracers elsewhere that have like Versa Crit, or maybe they're the on-use pieces from Mechagon that rolled like a socket, then make it on your Neck. Okay. If for some reason you somehow got really, really amazing Bracers and a really, really good Neck from somewhere, the third option to put this on would be your Cloak. You don't get a socket that way, but it's the next lowest budget piece that you would put it on. That doesn't help out. So Bracers or Neck generally, and if you somehow lucked out and got really, really good Bracers and Neck, then put it on your Cloak. But what does Unity do for us? It makes it so that when we use Weapons of Order, that's our Kyrian ability, on a 2-minute cooldown, which is reduced by Mykonos, it makes it so that we get Summon Nizao to assist us for 12 seconds. And Nizao is really nice. He does additional damage for us, and he reduces the damage we take from our stagger. So that's good. It's both offensive and defensive. It's the best of both worlds. Is nice. Alright, so I think I pronounced that correct again. Nizao. Again, I like to call him Nuzio, but I've been told it's Nizao. I like to call him Nuzio, though. Alright, so that's Legos. Again, Storm, Stouts, Last Keg, craft his belt. Unity, craft on Bracers or Neck. I have mine on my Bracers because I got a pretty decent Neck. Alright, let's talk about tier pieces then. So our tier piece, our 2-set tier piece bonus is, it's okay. It's not great. It's not bad. It makes it so targets ignited by Breath of Fire now deal 9% less damage to you. That's not actually what it says on the piece. What it says is it does 4% additional less damage to you. That's because baseline Breath of Fire makes it so that if you get the dot for Ignite on them, they do 5% less damage to you. So I don't know if you guys are math teachers out there, but 5 plus 4 is 9, so I just simplified that. I thought I'd save you guys some math, trying to help you guys out. Alright, so not great, but it's not bad. It's consistent, you just take less damage. It's not bad at all. Not great, but it's not bad. Our 4-piece is where the bread and butter comes from. I hope you don't have a gluten allergy like I do, because this right here is the bread and the butter. Alright? So the 4-piece makes it so Cake Smash deals an additional 50% damage. That's on top of the 30% from Storm Stouts. So here's a little math lesson for you. If you're getting 30% from Storm Stouts, Last Keg, and an additional 50% from the 4-set, I'll give you some time to do the math. Okay? Pick up your fingers. 3, 5. Yeah, that's 80% more damage. So that's good. It's nice. Okay? That's really good. But also, not only does it do more damage, but it makes it so that you heal for 66% of the damage dealt. Meaning, if you hit Cake Smash and it did 10k damage, I don't know what it does. If it did 10k, it's healing you for 6,666 health. Which is, like, nice. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, so there's that. Okay. That also hits multiple targets. So you're getting multiple heals there. If it's hitting multiple targets for multiple amounts, you're getting multiple heals all at once. That's nice. But it's not done yet. Because not only that, but it also grants you 66% of the damage that it deals as extra max health for 10 seconds and that stacks and refreshes. So that means you did damage. It did a lot more damage. It healed you, and not only did it heal you, but it increased your max health. It is amazing. Seriously, last season I got up to like 200k health. They did change the force set a little bit so that it wouldn't like swing so high, but generally now I sit around like 140, 150k health, just at 10 stacks, which is pretty consistently high health, and it's nice. And they fixed the bug where if you dropped your stacks, it would delete the health, the extra health, out the bottom, which meant you could go from like 50k health to dead just from not taking a hit and dropping your stacks. That doesn't happen anymore, so you can no longer kill yourself. There was one time I spent like an hour trying to figure out how I died, and it ended up being I dropped my stacks. So that can't happen anymore. So it's really good. It's nice. Extra health, extra healing, extra damage. Everything you want out of a force set. This is, as soon as you can get it, get it. It's the best. It's the best. Ideally, you want this on helm, shoulders, chest, and pants. The stats on the gloves, I think, are haste mastery, which aren't great. So if you can get like a crit verse gloves, those are good. But if you can't have anything else, then obviously turn your gloves into tier. You want the 4-piece over anything else. But in an ideal world, you want helm, shoulders, chest, and pants. Okay, so that's gear. Let's talk about why you're probably here now and you're like, okay, I know all this. I don't know what my rotation is. Let's talk about it. So let's talk about the opener first. I know some people, a lot of guys like to go rotation first. I like to go opener because like, it's nice to know your rotation, but I'd love to know how to start my rotation and then, get my rotation down. So here's the opener. So every single pack, and this is the true whether you're doing Mythic Plus and you're starting with a big pack of mobs, or you're starting with a boss, or you're in raid and doing a boss. The same no matter what. So you're going to start by activating Rushing Jade Wind. That's the buff that just goes on you and deals damage in the circle around you. You can activate it before you go in, because it only does damage in like 6 yards. So press it, and then you're good for 9 seconds. So you're going to Rushing Jade Wind, and then you're going to Cake Smash. Cake Smash is a 15-yard range, so you can press it as you're running in, or if you cheat torpedo like me, then you can press it when you're done. But Rushing Jade Wind, Cake Smash, Breath of Fire. This is important because you always want to Breath of Fire right after your first Cake Smash, because Cake Smash puts a debuff on the target that slows it, and then if you Breath of Fire on it, that's what applies the Ignite for you, which makes them do less damage to you, and it also makes them tick for fire damage. So Cake Smash, then Breath of Fire. After you Breath of Fire, you're going to Cake Smash again because you have 2 charges. You're going to use both charges. After that, you're going to pop Weapons of Order, ideally with a lot of mobs around if you're in a trash pack. If not, you just pop it. This is going to both give you Nizao as a DPS increase and reduce your damage taken, which is really nice in multi-targets. And it's going to give you an extra charge of Cake Smash back right away. So you started by Rushing Jade Wind, Cake Smash, Breath of Fire, Cake Smash, Weapons of Order. Guess what's next? Cake Smash. Do you see how I say we're not losing threat? Like, Cake Smash is like Thrash for a bear. You just have threat for days now. You just have threat on everything. Okay? So after you've Cake Smashed the 3rd time, you're going to Blackout Kick because you can get a guard up and it does damage and it puts it on cooldown. After that, you're going to Spinning Cane Kick. If you are using Tiger Palm, for whatever reason, Tiger Palm there, I guess. But again, you don't need that. You can take that off your bar. Spinning Crane Kick, not only does it do more damage in single target, it also hits multiple targets. So why are you using Tiger Palm? Do you see what I'm saying here? All right. So after Blackout Kick, you're spinning, I'll say it right once, Spinning Crane Kick. Say that 10 times fast. Spinning Crane Kick, Spinning Crane Kick, Spinning Crane. I can't even say it 3 times. I failed. All right, so you're going to follow that up with Spinning Crane Kick. Then you're going to refresh Rushing Jade Wind, because again, it lasts for 9 seconds. Here's a fun fact for you. Monk's Brewmaster has a 1-second global. So this is all happening over 9 seconds. 1-second global. I didn't know this till like last week. I was like, why is my global so low? You just have a 1-second global because you're not using a weapon. You're attacking with your fists and your feet. All right, so the 9th ability is Rushing Jade Wind, and then you just proceed with your normal rotation. All right, so again, activate Jade Wind, Cake Smash, Breath of Fire, Cake Smash, Weapons of Order, Cake Smash, Blackout Kick, Spinning Crane Kick, Rushing Jade Wind again, and then follow the rotation. Okay, it's something you can practice pretty easily. You can do it without the Weapons of Order in there. If you don't have Weapons of Order up, you just don't Weapons of Order and you don't Cake Smash again. So you just go from the 2nd Cake Smash to Blackout Kick, to Spinning Crane Kick to Rushing Jade Wind, and then you're good. Follow your rotation. Okay? And again, that's the same whether it's multi-target, single target, whether you have weapons of order up or not, you're doing that. Okay. Now let's talk about the rotation. Because we have another DPS cooldown, but unlike every other class in the game, you don't want to press weapons of order and invoke Nuzio at the same time. Sorry, I did it again. Invoke Nizao. Here's the rotation. So, on the right here, Touch of Death if it's going to kill the target. Touch of Death will do a third of your max health to a target if it's below 15% health. However, if the target has less health than you, it does your entire health pool for damage. And with our 4-piece, like I said, you can get your health pool up to like 150k, 180k, 200k. So you're going to find pretty quickly you can be pressing a button and doing 200k damage. Use it if it's going to kill it. The only situation where I wouldn't use it if it's not going to kill it would be like the mini boss for Shrouded, where like the shield's up and you just need to break the shield, or on Maiden in Lower Karazhan, where again the shield came up, it's under 15%, you didn't have a chance to kill it. Just press Touch of Death to get a quick 40k done to the shield, and hopefully it pops before everyone dies. Okay, but otherwise Touch of Death only if it's going to kill the target. All right. Second priority, Keg Smash if you are at or nearing 2 charges. So if you're about to get a second charge, Keg Smash. Breath of Fire on cooldown. Ideally, Breath of Fire if Keg Smash debuff is on the target, which, as long as you're following rotation and pressing Keg Smash when you're supposed to, it'll be up on the target. The debuff lasts for like 12 seconds, and you're going to Keg Smash like every 6 seconds or so. So, yeah. All right, and then 4, you're going to Weapons of Order if it will not cap Keg Smash, because again, it gives you an extra charge of Keg Smash, but you're capped at 2. So if you are charging more than 1, press Keg Smash again, and then Weapons of Order. However, if you have just invoked Nizao, which is our other DPS cooldown, do not Weapons of Order. Okay, you can have 2 Nizaos out at the same time, but they don't add. Okay. So instead of doing more damage, they just do the damage as if there was 1 out. And instead of giving you 50% stagger reduction, they still only give you 25 stagger reduction, and it just staggers between the 2. Stagger will never kill Nizao. Okay, the only way Nizao is going to die is if it pulls thread off of you and a target kills it. Okay, so don't Weapons of Order if you just invoke Nizao, and don't invoke Nizao if you have just Weapons of Order. Okay. The Weapons of Order buff, again, from the Unity Lego, lasts 12 seconds. Wait till that 12 seconds is over, and then hit Invoke Nizao. I have a weak aura that I'll put in the description of the video that shows you when Nizao is out, so that you know not to press Invoke Nizao or Weapons of Order if one of them's up. Okay, we'll talk about that more on the next page. Okay, after dealing with your cooldowns for Invoke, Nizao, and Weapons of Order, you're going to Blackout Kick pretty much on cooldown there. It's got a 4-second cooldown, so just press it whenever it's up if you're not pressing any of those more important things. Rushing Jade Wind, again, you'll press that. It has a 9-second duration, a 6-second cooldown, so press it somewhere in between 6 and 9 seconds. Expel Harm. This costs 15 energy. It's your heal. So press this if you're missing health. It has 6-second cooldown. It only costs 15 energy, so it's pretty safe to press basically every time you need it. So it's there. 9. If you don't have 2 Keg Smashes, or you're not nearing Keg Smash, but you have 1, Keg Smash. After that, Spinning Crane Kick, if you'll have enough energy to Keg Smash after. Keg Smash costs 40 energy. Spinning Crane Kick uses 25. So you want to make sure that after you Spinning Crane Kick, if you need to Keg Smash after, that you can Keg Smash. Okay, so don't go below 40. Also, it's important to know that you cannot, this is the one spot where some of those Tiger Palm people come up. You can't Spinning Crane Kick 2 times in a row. You can. It clips the first one. So Spinning Crane Kick, when you use it, it's going to put like a cast bar at the bottom of your screen. However, even though it's a cast bar, you can still do all of your other abilities. The only ability you can't do while that cast bar up is Spinning Crane Kick again. Okay, so it lasts for like a second and a half. So if you press it 2 times in a row, not only are you spending way more energy than you need to, but it's going to clip and only do half of the damage from your first Spinning Crane Kick, and then it's going to do full damage of the second. So generally, if you have enough energy to Spinning Crane Kick, again I messed up there, Generally, you will spinning crane kick and then fill it in with like either rushing Jade Wind or blackout kick or cake smash and then spinning crane kick again. Okay. So you press it quite often, but don't spam it 2 times in a row. And then if you don't have energy because you need to save for cake smash and you got nothing else to do, blackout kicks on cooldown, so is breath of fire, so is expel harm, so is rushing Jade Wind, then you can chi wave. And I know what you're thinking, Kyle, we picked chi wave as the first talent. I know. it's not super helpful. It does do damage. It does more damage than not pressing it. But it doesn't do more damage than the other abilities. However, it is good to press if your team takes a big chunk of damage. Like if you know a big chunk of damage came out, press it. It will heal and do damage. Okay. So how it works is it hits 7 times. It will, if you attack the enemy, it's gonna hit an enemy 4 times, and it's gonna heal someone in your group. It's a smart heal. It'll heal one of them in between each hit. Or if you target a heal, like to heal with it, it'll heal, then attack, heal, attack, heal, attack, heal. So it'll do 4 heals and 3 attacks. Again, not super high priority, but Tiger Palm is worthless, and you don't want the other talent. So Chi Wave is what we got. Cool. So that's your rotation. So again, opening stays the same every single time. You can do this pretty much every time. If your first pack died quickly and you didn't invoke Nizao because it died within 12 seconds, instead of Weapons of Order here, if Weapons of Order is on cooldown and you're going to pull your next pack, you can instead hit Invoke Nizao. It's not going to give you an extra Cake Smash, but you can interchange Invoke Nizao. You do want to use Weapons of Order first if they're both off cooldown, so that's why it's here, number 5, and it's Invoke Nizao is not in here, because you're going to wait 12 seconds to press it. But if you used Weapons of Order and Invoke Nizao's up, you can press that right after your second Cake Smash. It won't give you an extra Cake Smash, but you just skip the 6 and go to 7. Okay? So that's kind of the things in there. If you have any questions about that, again, I highly recommend whenever I'm learning a new class, I just go up to like a target dummy and I just press, and just to kind of get used to it. In keys, then that's where you'll add in like a spell harm. So if you're new to Brewmaster, I highly recommend just kind of going through keys, work your way up. That's what I do whenever I'm learning a new tank. I don't like try to pug straight into a 15. I know I can, but I'd rather just actually learn what I'm doing instead of get carried. So if you have questions along the way about how to do anything, just let me know. I'm here to help. All right, let's talk about cooldowns. Cooldowns. So our 2 main cooldowns that is like what our class revolves around are Purifying Brew and Celestial Brew. Purifying Brew is a 2-charge ability with a 20-second cooldown. It might actually be less than that, but it might be like 15. But it's reduced by haste. It's also, every time you Cake Smash, it takes 4 seconds off of it. So that's why the cooldown's kind of whatever. So Purifying Brew is really nice. Whenever you have stagger damage, if you press Purifying Brew, which has 2 charges, it will take away half of your stagger. So let's go back to that scenario where I've got 50% stagger, okay? And I got hit by a 100k hit. I took 50% of that hit up front. Another 50% of that hit, that 50k, is now being staggered over 10 seconds. That's a lot to stagger over 10 seconds. That's a lot of damage, right? However, I can then press Purifying Brew, and instead of staggering 50k damage over 10 seconds, now I'm staggering 25k damage over 10 seconds. That's a lot nicer. That's only 2.5k a second. But there's 2 charges, so if I really wanted to, I could press it again, and now I'm down to 12.5, which is like 1k a second. So Purifying Brew is really nice. It's reactive, okay? You take the hit, and then you press it to just get rid of, just delete the damage from your stagger pool. So unlike most tanks, this is where the reactive portion of Brewmaster comes in. You take the hit, it adds to your stagger, and then you purify it, and it's gone. I mean, it's not gone, but half of it's gone, right? If you have Nizao up, 25% of your stagger gets gone to him. So if you take that 50k hit and Nizao's out, you cut that in half. Now you guys are splitting 25k between you and Nizao, which means you're only taking like, 15k or something like that. A little bit more, 15k. Okay, but not only that, Purifying Brew also gives you a buff. It gives you a stacking buff that stacks up to 10 times, which is called Purifying Chi. Purifying Chi makes it so that your next Celestial Brew will absorb more damage. So let's talk about what Celestial Brew does without Purified Chi first, though. Celestial Brew is like a 40-45 second cooldown, again reduced by Cake Smashing, so it takes 4 seconds off every time you cake smash, so it ends up being something close to like a 25 to 30 second cooldown if you're in the middle of damage. If you're not, then it's the normal damage. So you want to use this on CD to absorb any incoming damage. This includes a big hit that's going to come on you. It includes many small hits. This also includes stagger. If you are staggering damage and you Celestial Brew, your stagger will eat the shield instead of eating you. This also works with dots. Really nice. All right. Now, here's where the stacks of Purified Chi come in. Every time you Purify Chi, you get at least a stack. If you have large stagger, sometimes you'll get 2 stacks of Purified Chi. Sometimes you'll get 3. It stacks all the way up to 10. Purified Chi makes it so that the absorb from your Celestial Brew gives you a bigger absorb. Basically, at 10 stacks, it gives you 200% more shield. So let's say your shield was going to absorb 30k. At full 10 stacks of Purified Chi, it's now absorbing 90k. That's a lot of damage to absorb. So it's really nice. So basically, when it comes to Purifying Brew, going back to Purifying Brew, you want to Purifying Brew anytime after you take like a big hit. But if you aren't taking big hits, you still want to Purifying Brew basically every 8 seconds. That's going to make it so that you keep your stacks of Purified Chi building. That way, when you take the big hit and you need to Celestial Brew or you need to absorb something, you have a bigger shield. Okay? So, again, I have a nice weak aura that tracks my Purified Brews, not only the duration, but the stacks. And I also have it to where like it lights up, right? Like within 2 seconds of it falling off, so I know, hey, I should purify my brew. I will link that in the description for you as well. I've also got one that shows your Celestial Brew shield and the duration left on the shield because it lasts for 10 seconds unless it breaks. Alright, so those are our bread and butter of the absorbs and our cooldowns. So, let's talk about our other cooldowns. So we've talked about Weapons of Order. That's our curing ability. It's used at the start of a pool directly after Cake Smash and Breath of Fire. So you Cake Smash, Breath of Fire, and then Weapons of Order. It's going to, again, give you an extra charge of Cake Smash, and it's going to bring out Nizal for 12 seconds. Okay, so if it comes off CD during a pull, then you just follow the rotation priority that I had on the last page. But basically, you want to put this at the beginning of a pull. Make sure you're doing it with big mobs, or like mini mobs, so that you get the cooldown reduction on it, and then it just does damage. Again, the other ability that we have that's our other cooldown that's like DPS / survival is Invoke Nizal. This is what comes out when you Weapons of Order for 12 seconds. You also get a mastery buff with Weapons of Order that just makes it so you dodge more, do more damage. Invoke Nizal makes it so that your Ox comes out for, I believe it's 25 or 30 seconds. And again, that Ox does damage. Every time you Purifying Brew and take stagger off of it, your Ox's main ability, which is Stomp, does more damage based on how much damage you have purified with Purifying Chi. So it comes all the way back to our Purifying Brew here. So when you have the Nizal out from either Weapons of Order or Invoke Nizio, again, ideally you want this out when there's high target counts or you're taking a lot of damage. It makes you do more damage. It makes you take less damage. And purifying and taking more damage makes your Ox do even more damage. So that works with both of these. Again, you want to use this during a time of high incoming damage, large mob count, or just like when the Invoke Nizal from Weapons of Order isn't out to do more damage. Okay, it's a damage cooldown and a survival cooldown, but mostly we just use it for damage. And generally when we use it for damage on mobs, we're using it as survival as well. So again, just follow the priority in the order I put on the last page. Alright, our last 2 cooldowns are our big cooldowns, and these are Fortifying Brew and Zed Med. So, Fortifying Brew is used to mitigate a large amount of damage. Alright, this is basically what it does is it gives you 15% of your max health as additional health, so an extra 15% health, and it increases how well you stagger damage. So it makes it so that your stagger, again, instead of being 10 seconds if you took Bob and Weave, which I recommend, it goes, I believe it's 15 seconds. So it just spreads it out over more time, which means you take less with each hit. Now, if you take that fortifying ingredients that I talked about in the defensive tree all the way back when, not only does it increase your health and make it so that you take less damage per second through stagger, but it also gives you an absorb shield for 15% of your max health. So not only do you get 15% more health, but you also get 15% shield on your max health. And that includes the 4-set. So if you have a big 4-set additional health already, that's increasing even more the shield on it. So it becomes even more of a good move defensively. This has a 5-minute cooldown. However, just like all of our other Purifying and Celestial Brews, every time you Cake Smash, it takes 4 seconds off the cooldown. So if you're in constant damage doing chain pulls, really the only way to play Monk is just keep chain pulling. You basically have it up every 3 minutes. If you got some breaks in between, it might be like 3.5, but generally it's about 3 minutes. Now, Zen Med is our long cooldown. It is 6 minutes. It's not reduced by anything, and it's kind of like the Hail Mary. Okay, so Zen Med, when I'm going to read it to you, what it does, and it's kind of sounds good, kind of sounds bad. Here's what it does. So this is used when you're about to take a large hit that you normally wouldn't survive. If you're like, I'm about to die from this very next hit, this is when you Zen Med. Because you're out of Celestial Brew, you're out of Fortifying Brew, you don't have a trinket that can save you, your healer is God knows where, he got lost running back to you when you were alive, or maybe he just died, or maybe it's just a really big hit that's about to kill you. What it does is it makes it so that you take 60% less damage for 8 seconds. However, there's a but. There's always a but, right? So you take 60% less damage for 8 seconds. However, if you get hit by a melee attack, it cancels the effect. So basically, if you know that the really big melee attack, a stacking cleave, is about to hit you or something, and you know you generally wouldn't survive it, you can Zen Med, and you will take 60% less damage from it, which generally means you're going to survive. And then it's going to cancel it right away. Here's the other bad side to it, though. You can move around while you're Zen Medding, but if you use like Chi Torpedo, Roll, or you press any of your attacks or heals, the Zen meditation ends. So now you've reduced no damage, and you've just wasted a 6-minute cooldown. So again, this is kind of like the Hail Mary. You use it when like you have nothing else left. There's a lot of dungeons where I just don't press it because I don't need it. And then there's some dungeons where I'm like, I'm out of everything, I need this or I'm going to die. So when you need that, you can do it. Now, there are some things that you can kind of count this as an immunity for, though, because it is a big 60% damage reduction. So, for instance, Huntsman on Lower Kara, it does that shared suffering cast right after the mortal wound, where generally you want like at least 2 other people, preferably 3, to come in the big purple circle, take the shared suffering, and then move out. But sometimes like there's a lot of damage going on, or they're afraid to come in because the cone from the other charger's coming in. So what you can do is, if you know that it's like a lower key, like a 15 through 18, and it's not not tyrannical weak, you can just take one of these completely with Zen Med. You can just Zen Med it, and you'll live, and you'll have probably like half your health left. On a tyrannical key, probably don't do it above an 18. Or if you're going to do it above that, you can combine 2 of these things together. So this week on a 21 Lower Kara on Huntsman, one of my melee killed himself, and the rest of my group was ranged, and I just told them over comms, like, don't even come in, I'm just going to immune it. So what I did is right before the ability came out, I Celestial Brewed, and then I hit Zen Med. That gave me a big shield, right? And then I hit Zen Med, which not only do I have a shield up, but now I have a 60% damage reduction. So I took 60% less damage, and most of that damage just ate my Celestial Brew, and I had like 90% health left. So you can use it like that. I've used this on raid bosses that like my raid tank died, and like say it's Halandris, and the beams are coming out, and he died, or he missed a taunt or something, or whoever it is missed a taunt, whatever. You can take 2 in a row by taking the one normally, and then Celestial Brewing, and then Zen Bedding, or Fort Brewing and Zen Bedding, or having full health and Zen Bedding and praying. If you're someone who prays. So it's there as, it's kind of an immunity, it's kind of not. But the thing that I didn't mention on this is that, again, it only breaks if you use an ability or you get hit by a melee. So there are certain situations where maybe it's a magic damage, or it's not a melee, it's not a direct attack against you, and you can use this to get lots of hits. So say you're in Workshop, and it's the second boss where he drops the square, and he does the casts 4 times in a row. that just does damage, and if you're behind the block, you don't take damage. But say somehow you ended up, you like lagged out, or you pressed Chi Torpedo and you went the wrong direction for whatever reason, and you're like, oh crap, I'm on the other side now, I'm not going to make it behind the box, I'm going to die. You can Zen Med, and because that's not a direct attack, you can move while Zen Medding. So you're going to take 60% less damage from each hit, and it's not going to break because it's not a direct attack. It's not a melee. So the 4 hits are going to go off, and you'll take 60% less damage from each hit. So this is good not only in that situation, but if like if you happen to raid and you need it for a raid cooldown, you can do it there as an immunity that way too, to take less damage. Not a true immunity, but a pseudo immunity for it. So there's that. So a couple things you can do with it, but that is our cooldowns. So this is definitely no longer a quick guide. I see I've been talking for quite a while. So let's just talk about trinkets and weapons, finish this thing up, and yeah, hopefully you've learned a lot of info. I apparently had a lot to share. So trinkets and weapons, the last part of gear that I didn't talk about. So here's the thing that everyone wants to know. Where do our best weapons and trinkets come from? Well, the short answer is Sanctum of Domination, the raid. Not great if you only plan on doing Mythic Plus, but you can get the quest item for killing 30 bosses on normal, or whatever, doing it that way. So our best things come out of Sanctum of Domination. So our best trinket is Shard of, can't say that word, Aegis. I have no idea what that is. I'm not even going to try. I just call it the Aegis trinket. So what this does is on a 1.5-minute cooldown, it gives you a shield that reduces the damage of every attack made against you by, and this is heroic item level, by about 13k. This means if you're getting hit by a mob for 14k, you only take 1k. This means if you've got a lot of tiny mobs hitting you for 6k, you're not taking any damage at all, because 12k minus 6k is not above 12k. So you're taking 0 damage. The cool thing about this is that not only does it work on mobs in front of you, it works on your stagger. It works on dots. So if you activate it with high stagger, you have 8 seconds where you're just not going to take damage from your stagger. Because it doesn't add the damage from everything. It's individual sources. So it counts your stagger as an individual source. It counts a dot on you as an individual source. It counts all the tiny mobs in front of you as individual sources. So they are all doing no damage to you, basically. It's really good. And it's only a 1.5-minute cooldown. But if the defensive-ness wasn't nice for you, then you also have, it does attacks too. Because if you take at least 45 total damage from it, then it overcharges and hits everything in front of you for 7k. That's not split damage. That's every mob in front of you for 7k. So I actually use this a lot on the mini-boss Shrouded ad. When it puts its shield up, I'll just put this up. It's going to do 45k damage to me. So I'm going to take no damage from it. And during the duration of that shield, it's going to hit it for 7k. Or if the shield ends, then it's going to hit 7k to him. So it does a little bit of damage, but it's extremely good on bigger packs because it's going to do that damage to everything. So this, along with like the trinket from DOS in previous seasons, they were like the 2 best trinkets for us. The other really good trinket from us, so that one comes off the 9 in Sanctum of Domination. You can get on LFR. I'm going to tell you, even if you can't get it on normal, you can't get it on heroic, you can't get it on mythic, the LFR version of this is better than almost any other trinket. I'm telling you, I am still using a mythic version of this from SOD, and I have not taken it off from 2 seasons ago, from season 2. I'm still using a 250 version of this trinket, and it is still the best trinket that I have. Okay, so this is like the best trinket. All right, the next best trinket, again, because it's both defensive and offensive and works amazing with tanks, Brewmaster specifically, is the trinket off Guardian of the First Ones in Sanctum of Domination again, and this is the Reactive Defense Matrix. So I've linked the heroic version of it, but basically it gives you agility, and you have a chance, when taking damage, to trigger a shield on you that blocks 15k, absorbs 15k damage, but not only does it absorb it, it reflects it. So when they attack you, they're not doing damage to you, they're actually attacking themselves. So it's basically like a spell reflect, but it works on everything. Oh, and the internal cooldown on this, it's not based off seconds. It's based off individual damaging attacks on you, which means anything that attacks you is reducing the cooldown of it. This means that your stagger that you're taking every second is reducing the cooldown on this. So this thing is like, I don't want to say broken because I don't want to get this thing hotfixed, but this is like the best trinket ever because it procs like every 20 seconds for Brewmaster. Because stagger counts in that individual hit, which is resetting it. So it's blocking, it's absorbing 15k damage almost. It's doing all of that damage back to the attackers as, with the shields up. Oh, and it is a pseudo cheat death. It's not real cheat death, but if you get below 20% health, it activates. Even if it had just activated and fell off, if you hit 20% health, it's going to activate again. And the 20% health one is the thing that has a 30-second cooldown, not the regular effect. Just the, oh crap, I hit 20% health. That can happen every 30 seconds. The regular shield happens, again, I don't know what the magic number is, but the more hits you take, the faster it comes back up. And that's individual hits, stagger, dots, any mob hitting you. All reduces the cooldown on it coming back up. I'm not joking. When Plaguefall Trinket File was really good for all DPS, this was doing more damage than the File Trinket on both single target and AoE. I was rocking the File Trinket and this Trinket in Season 2. This thing, even in Season 3, I was using this at only a heroic level from before, so it was like 235 or something like that, and it still was doing more damage than my 272 File. Because it's that good for Brewmaster. So, this is the other trinket that you definitely want. You can use both of these. They both work defensively and offensively, and you will have a good time and do a lot of damage and reduce a lot of damage. So they're amazing. There's a lot of trinkets out there. I'm not going to list them. You can look them up. But these are the bread and butter of trinkets for you. Now, when it comes to weapons, look at this. Sanctum of Domination is back. So, off Painsmith, we want the same weapon that all the melee except for a survival hunter wants, which is the fist weapon, the Cruciform Vein Ripper. So, this has no stats on it, but when you attack from behind, you hit a movement impaired enemy or something suffering from loss of control, your attacks have a very high chance to cause them to bleed for just over 5k for 6 seconds. Here's the thing. Our Keg Smash applies a 12-second slow on every target. Not bosses, but every other target. Which means that every time you Keg Smash, which is counted as a melee attack, every time you Spinning Crane Kick, every time you Blackout Kick, every time you Jade Wind, which is counted as a melee attack, you have a very high chance to put a physical bleed on the targets. So you want 2 of these, which sucks because they're really hard to get. So you're probably using your quest item to buy these. That's what I'm going to have to use. I'm betting myself right now. I'm buying this, and I'm buying this. And ideally, you want 2 of these. So, if you are unlucky like me, and I ran every version of, well, the 9, the Heroic, Normal, and LFR versions of the Guardian, and same thing for Painsmith, and got unlucky and didn't get any of these, sad times. I'm still using the 9 from 2 seasons ago. Trinket. But for a weapon, you are in luck. It's not as good as the Painsmith weapon. However, in Mechagon, on the Junkyard side of Mechagon, the Gunker boss will drop this Salvaged Incendiary Tool, which is like a not as good Cruciform Vein Ripper, where it has a chance to ignite your enemy with Fusion Fire, dealing just over 3k damage over 4 seconds. I've noticed this actually has a pretty high proc rate. I'm using 1 right now, not 2, but I'm using 1. It has a pretty high proc rate. I see it go up on a lot of mobs. It can go on multiple mobs at once. And unlike the Vein Ripper, where you have to attack from behind if you're doing like a raid boss, and you can't attack from behind if you're doing, a Mythic Plus boss, the Salvaged Incendiary Tool does apply its dot to bosses from attacking from the front. They don't have to be slowed. So, for a while, I'm probably going to buy 1 of these and keep my hands on this other Incendiary Tool and just kind of rock 1 of each of these. But ideally, you want 2 Vein Rippers. If you can't get 2 Vein Rippers, you can infinitely farm Junkyard by just queuing up for Junkyard over and over again until you get 2 of these. These are the next best thing when it comes to Mythic Plus weapons. Now, obviously there's other weapons that have like stats on them that might drop a slightly higher item level from raids as well that you can get. I'm not going to go over those. Obviously there's some on the Jailer. There's some at the end of Castle Nathria. You can take a look at those if you want. But these are the best for Mythic Plus. So these are the ones I'm going over. Okay? So, I've gone over a lot of stuff here. That is going to be it for it. I know I said this is a quick guide. I'm looking at the time. It is not a quick guide. But hopefully, there was good information in here that you learned. If you have additional questions or you want me to go over something in more detail, please put a comment in the chat. I'm here for you. You know, outside of WoW, I'm actually a teacher in real life. I teach math. That's how I was able to do those math earlier. So if you have questions, like, just let me know. I'm here for you. I got you. I'll check the comments. I will help you out. If you need help in game, just message me. I'll put my stuff up on the screen here as I play my outro. So definitely like, comment, subscribe, all that, you know, normal jazz. You can definitely check out other videos that I've got up around. I'll put a couple up here, and I'll have some more things coming out soon. So I will catch you guys later. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Hello.